Hello, in today's video we're going to be testing out this. It's the Fujifilm GFX 50R medium format camera. I've been all over the country testing out this, including coming here to North Yorkshire today, where I've just been absolutely covered in snow along with this camera. So I'd really love it if you just come with me and take a look at this camera. Right, let's go.
The review starts with a trip to the English Lake District, because no camera review is complete without hiking it to the top of a mountain. At the moment, I'm just hiking up the side of this mountain, completely off the track, just up through the snow and through the reeds, to try and get above the cloud base, just so I can get some of, because there's some beautiful trees on this hillside, and if I can isolate one of them in some of this hill fog, when I get up high enough, that'll be amazing. I've got up here, and it's just absolutely stunning up here. It's just become so still and so quiet, which I guess is why I'm whispering, but it would almost feel rude to be any louder, be disturbing that sheep, but absolutely beautiful up here. Haven't found any compositions yet, but I think it could be a struggle, really, if I'm honest, so I might go and try and find another viewpoint, but just fantastic. Frustrating, very frustrating. I just got to this point right on this little outcrop here, had a beautiful view of some pine trees. I had the 250mm lens on, and in about 2 seconds, the cloud base just fell, and it's complete whiteout now. I can still see down this way, down to the lake. I was focusing, and between focusing and actually taking the image, the cloud just got in the way. So, tricky conditions at this kind of height. I've just been walking past and noticed this little lone tree covered in some of the snow that fell last night, and it just looks beautiful. I've got some of this reedy grass covered in ice as well, which looks perfect in the foreground. And then going up beyond that, I've got the sort of some of the crags in the mist with some of that snow on, and it's just kind of making a relatively interesting image. But I've got that tree over on the left hand side of the frame, just anchoring and balancing out the whole image against the sort of rocky outcrop that's on the right hand side of the frame. It's not the perfect picture because it's lacking in a little bit of colour. This is a medium format camera, so the depth of field is smaller than it is on a normal full frame camera. So I'm at f16, but some of the grass in the foreground is blurred out a bit, but I know I'm going to crop that out, so it doesn't really matter. As I imagine it as a 3x2 or a 16x9, the first bit of grass that's in the image is sharp, so I know I'm all right. I'm at 64mm on the lens, getting as close as I can on that tree. Interesting light again. Let's just go again. 2 second timer. There we go. I'll just lift the screen up a bit so I can have a look. Yeah, it's nice. F16, 1/50th of a second. It'll be interesting to edit that one as well. Some of the snow on the mountains and the crags looks great. Straightforward image, but it's pretty nice. After several hours trekking around on the mountaintop, the deep cold started to affect the cameras. The autofocus on the Fujifilm GFX 50R failed on a number of occasions, although the same also occurred, as you can see here, on the Canon 5D Mark IV, which was filming this scene. This was the last scene looking over Windermere Lake before we headed over to North Yorkshire and to the beach the next day.
Right, so I'm down at the beach for my second shot, and the conditions are far from ideal to be filming in. I've forgotten to put my hat on, so my hair's blowing all over the place, but I don't really care because it's great conditions to capture a nice image. So I'm set up, the tide's coming in, so I've had to be pretty quick, but it's given me a really good opportunity to do a long exposure. Now, I want to test out the long exposure abilities of this camera. It's something I do a lot, so if I'm looking for a camera, I want to know that it can handle long exposures. Some sensors do suffer sometimes, even the high-end sensors suffer sometimes when you go over 2 minutes. So I want to just test that out with this camera and also create a really nice, moody, fine art feel to this image on this cloudy day. Great opportunity for that. For the composition, I'm just set up, we're using some of these groins going into the water and they're just leading me into the image. I've got the horizon sort of towards the top of the frame. At the moment I've got the 10-stop filter on the camera. And the beauty of these Fujifilm cameras is that with the 10-stop filter on there, you can still see through it to focus and to compose. I can't do that on my Canon 5D Mark IV, particularly once I go to some of the smaller apertures. That also means that you don't need to use a exposure calculator or anything like that. So for this one, I'm at f16 just to make sure everything is in nice sharp focus, base ISO of 100, and then I'm shooting for about 2 minutes. I'm all ready, I'm all set, I'm focused in on the groins, just the far groins that we can see in this image, just to make sure I get everything in focus. So that's it, I'm pretty much ready to shoot. Let's just turn into wind for a second, into the sound of those waves as well, which are just fantastic. I'm focused, I'm ready. Let's just flick into manual focus. 2-second timer. And there we go, look at that, just some nice waves coming in right at the last moment. I should be all right. The tripod is very sturdy. I don't think it's going to move in the sand, hopefully. I just need to wait 2 minutes, make sure that everything is sharp and there's no movement in the tripod or anything like that. If not, I'll shoot it again, make sure it's looking right on the back of the camera. But it's difficult conditions. It's windy, it's cold, the tide's coming in. So I'm having to be quick, but I know the location, so I can do that. But let's just wait 2 minutes and see how that looks. Right, that's done now, so let's have a little look at that. Oh, so nice. If the file is as good as it looks on the back of the screen, that is going to be absolutely fantastic. Great second shot. So this camera uses the Fujifilm GFX series lenses, or the GF Fujinon lenses, and the ones I've got with the camera at the moment are the 32 to 64, which is kind of 24mm to 50mm, and this insane beast, which is a 250mm lens, prime lens, which is about 200mm in the 35mm format. Oh, it's so cold. So I'm just testing it out at the moment as Roseberry topping just starts to clear from this snow. I'm just testing it out. One thing I really like is the lens hood, which is nice and big, but it's also got this little notch. See that? This little notch here, just for changing your circular polarizer if you've got one attached. When you're using a long lens, if you've got the lens hood on, it becomes extremely difficult to sort of try and reach around and get to the circular polarizer and adjust it. So that's a really nice touch. Fujifilm just seem to really think about photographers. Landscape photographers as well. So yeah, really like that. But I haven't really had much chance to test out this lens. It's an absolute beast. It's a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to give it a go and get it on the camera. So another thing I really like about this camera is the ability to handhold it so easily. Everything is controlled just in this one hand. You've got the joystick to move focus points around, everything's just there. One thing I don't like though is that the eyepiece is made of plastic. So when you're hand holding, using that electronic viewfinder, putting that to your eye, if you were doing that all day, for example, at a wedding, it would get painful, I think, by the end of it. It's really hard. Don't know why there isn't just a rubber outer bit like there is on all other cameras. Which is a very strange thing to leave off. Anyway, some of the hills in the background there that you can just see, looking absolutely fantastic as the sun's just starting to come through onto me. 1/200th of a second, 1/250th of a second, ISO 200, f8 for me to be able to handhold. I'm just getting some of the detail over in those clouds over there and it's looking great. Let's just get it nice and tight. Nice clouds above it as well. Oh yes, some of that looks great. I should do let me just do a panorama in fact. I'm gonna focus in, lock that focus off. A handheld panorama at 250mm on the Fujifilm GFX 50R. How many pictures did I take there? I'm not quite sure, but that is going to be a big file. They're about 100 megabytes each, so I like it. Right, so I think this is going to be my last position for today because the weather is just so changeable. I'm getting battered with snow. I found a little break in this snow and cloud, and there's a weather front coming from over there. I'm about to get blasted again. For this shot though, I've gone to ISO 50, which is below the base ISO. It's the low mode. I just want to test out how good it is and see whether it's usable. And again, we'll see that when we take the pictures back into post-processing. But for this one, it started snowing again. I'm just going to get a shot with it snowing actually because that's looking really nice. I'm just going to get in there. I'm focused already, manual focused again because the autofocus isn't working. 2-second timer, snap that. That is a dramatic image. I'm just going to go again because the top of the hill is now getting covered in snow and it's going out of my vision and it's just looking really interesting. Some of the snow is now starting to hit the trees as well. It's coming for us any second now. That's at f11, 1/30th of a second. What I like about this camera particularly is it's just so easy to set up. The gap in the weather, just bang, it's on there. Everything's there with one hand, even when it's on the tripod. The screen's decent. For me though, it's just gonna be about the image quality as it starts to snow. So the hill, Roseberry Topping, is now disappeared. We're getting snow in our faces, in the camera's face as well. This camera is weather sealed. I have definitely put that to the test today. It got wet at the beach earlier. It's getting snowed on now. It's very wet snow, as you might see on the front of that camera. It's windy, I'm cold, but I'm loving it. I think it's time to pack up now and call it a day. We're getting very much covered in snow. Can you still see me?
Right, we'll get straight into Lightroom, have a look at these images so you can see that image quality coming out of that sensor. I don't think there's going to be any surprises really because the sensor is exactly the same as in the Fujifilm GFX 50S. So it's pretty much the same camera, just in a slightly different body and also about £2,000 cheaper, which is great. So let's have a look at this image to start with because this was just one I captured with the 250mm lens. I didn't talk through it. It's in the Lake District at Rydal Water and I just love it because of the detail that this camera is pulling out of that. If we zoom in, pretty much 2:1 here, so we're in really close now. You can just see all of the detail in that camera. We're in really close. So even at this magnification, you can just see loads of detail in all these trees, all that beautiful snow on those plants and those trees, and it just looks great. Love that image. Let's have a look at this one because I talked about this one and sort of said that I didn't think there was much colour in the scene, and I was right. So I've gone for a black and white image, and it looks great. Dramatic sort of editing, pulling out the light that was over on the hill here. Let's just zoom in on that tree. And that's nice and sharp as well. We're in so close here. So you can just see the amount of detail. Look at the ice on these reeds in the foreground. It just looks beautiful. Then we've got the light over in this area here and it looks fantastic. Let's have a look at this image here. This is another one that I didn't talk through, but this was shot at, if we look up here, you can see this is shot at ISO 320. I don't know why I did that. There must have been some good reason for it. Oh, yes, I know. It was because the tree was blowing around. So I wanted to up the shutter speed a bit so I could freeze the movement of those trees, which I've done, I think. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, that's nice and sharp on there. But let's just have a look. If we zoom in on the mountain in the distance, or the hill in the distance here, I mean, I can't see any noise there whatsoever. I'm looking really closely at that image. You can see the person on top of the hill there. There's no noise in that whatsoever.
think I have added a little bit of noise reduction to that. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, 20. I mean, that's very subtle. It's not going to degrade the image hardly at all at 20 on the luminance noise reduction, but that looks great. Very happy with that. Let's have a look at this one as well. I love the sort of contrast between the light and the dark on this image. I think it looks great, but I shot this one, if we go back to the grid view there, I shot this one at ISO 50, so I'm testing that low mode on the ISO because the native ISO is 100. I wanted to test that low mode, and again, zooming in so we can see the detail. I mean, just wait for Lightroom to catch up. Yeah, I mean, it possibly has lost a little bit of sharpness, but I'm seriously pixel peeping there. And also, I couldn't really see any difference between ISO 50 and ISO 100. So at the risk of losing anything, I would probably just continue using the base ISO of 100 because I don't think you're getting any benefit from going down to ISO 50. Maybe I would if I wanted to have a slightly longer exposure or something, but normally I think I would just shoot ISO 100. I want to finally just have a look at this panorama. So let's bring that up full screen so we can see it a little bit better. Yeah, it's not the best shot in the world, but it's just a great example of how we can use that camera handheld, even with that 250 on there. And it's stitched together so well. And look at the amount of resolution in this picture when we zoom in and all that beautiful detail in the cloud. It was handheld at ISO 200. There's virtually no noise in there. It's nice and sharp right across the frame. I'm really happy with that as a handheld panorama. That is actually about a 500 megabyte file in the end, so it's very impressive. There's loads of detail in there. It's going to be a great camera for shooting panoramas because of the slightly more square form factor of that medium format sensor. It makes doing these panoramas just really, really nice. So beautiful image quality. Let's just have one quick look at this one as well. Get right in down on those groins and you can just see the level of detail in those groins. I'm so close there and it's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I love this sensor. I love the image quality. So yeah, I'm really happy with those as a set of images. They were hard to come by. I traveled a long way, but in the end, I'm very happy with them. So image quality is top notch, as I was expecting, but I think we need to discuss who this camera is for. And just so you know, Fujifilm have sent me the camera to use. They didn't tell me what to say. They're just looking forward to hearing what I think about it. So I'm not under any influence from Fujifilm whatsoever. I think the camera is definitely for landscape photographers. If I was to use it as a wedding photographer, I'm not sure I'd be 100% happy with it. Partly because it's quite a bit of a brick. It's quite large, although it is quite light. With that 32-64 lens on there, that actually weighs less than my Canon 5D Mark IV with a 24-70 on it. It's just when you're hand holding it for long periods, apart from the eyepiece being plastic, the grip is also just not very deep. It's much deeper on other cameras, which allows you to just hand hold it all day. So it's more of a kind of a walk around camera, I think, that you're going to be putting in your bag, pulling out, and you're using like that if you're going to use it handheld. But as a landscape camera, yeah, it's great. If I had to use that camera for the rest of my career, I would be more than happy. Definitely. It produces great quality image files. Am I going to buy it? Probably not at the moment, because I don't think it's given me quite enough of an upgrade. It definitely is an upgrade, but not quite enough of an upgrade over my Canon 5D Mark IV. I am very excited about the direction that Fujifilm are going in with all their cameras. I like how they look after photographers as well. And I'm excited about the 100 megapixel medium format camera that is just around the corner. That GFX line is great. The lenses are nice. And yeah, it's an exciting time, I think, for medium format cameras that are starting to become somewhat affordable. So I hope you enjoyed the review. Like, subscribe, do what you need to do, and I'll see you on another one very, very soon. I'm Adam. This is First Man Photography. Out.
Say what you wanna say.